top stories for the hour. President Sahle-Work Zewde says the great Ethiopian run shows how a spark of a thought can make history. And Mohammed Dril says Ethiopians must play their role for national dialogue effectiveness. Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Binyam Gatana. Thank you for joining us. And now the news in detail. The peace agreement signed between the federal government and the TPLF will play a major role for the effectiveness of the national dialogue that has started in the country. In Ethiopia, for a long time, the question of national dialogue has been presented by civil society organizations in various bodies, but it has not been held due to unwillingness of the government of the time. Ambassador Mohammed Dril, a member of the National Dialogue Commission, said that the reform government that came 4 years ago underscored the importance of the issue, established an independent commission, and provided various supports and took the lion's share to start the dialogue in Ethiopia and answered the question that had been raised by many for years. The ambassador asked all Ethiopians to do their part to make it happen.
When we remember the past 2 years, even though it is unfortunate to recall the war, in the other side there is a positive thing, which is the national dialogue initiation, the national dialogue in which you are ambassador and member as a committee, and the peace agreement between the two may also have an additional thing for the realization of or the effectiveness of the national dialogue. So how it is important, Ambassador?
There has been calls and demands by various circles in Ethiopia to have a national dialogue. The civil society has been calling for such a dialogue long ago, and political parties have been both in government and in opposition, mainly in opposition I should say. The issue of having a national dialogue was a pertinent question that has been raised for years and years but has been ignored, very unfortunately. We're never too late to have finally reached a point whereby the commission has been established. It shows that the government is committed, and the buy-in of governments usually is very important for national dialogue, wherever that process is taking place. In Ethiopia, the fact that the government has shown its buy-in and commitment is a very courageous step. And I believe that Ethiopians are highly determined, and there is the goodwill of all Ethiopians, but there is also a very high expectation that the Commission would be solving all the problems of Ethiopia under the sun. I think we have to understand the capacity and the overall mandate of the Commission, which is to hold a credible, inclusive dialogue that brings about a national consensus.
You speak about high expectation of people about the National Dialogue Commission, but even though this high expectation comes from the strong need of peace of the Ethiopians, I think what's expected from the society, from the community, in terms of accepting the national dialogue process? What's expected?
We are not giving agenda to the people, of course. The agenda comes out of the people, and this is very important because it is a bottom-up approach. In some countries where the dialogue process has failed, it has failed because of issues, for example, like the interference of governments. The case of the Sudan is very a clear indication of what has happened in the Sudan as a failed dialogue process. Then you have countries like Sri Lanka, where the religious hierarchy and the media have been playing the spoiler part, and very unfortunately, these countries have not achieved the desired fruits, if you will, from the dialogue. Countries like Tunisia have been very successful, Senegal, many others, Colombia as well in Latin America. The reason why successful dialogues have taken place in these countries is the engagement of the civil society, the positive role of the media, the social media as well, and the non-interference of government. Of course, the support also of governments and commitment. So we believe that in Ethiopia, the process we're embarking on will have all the positive energy of all Ethiopians, and I am very confident and optimistic about that.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now step into another news. At the African Leadership Excellence Academy in Sululta, Fissa Yitagasu, CEO of Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation, trained Ethiopian diplomats on November 17, 2022, under the theme of media diplomacy and understanding the role of the new media. He gave a brief overview of global and Ethiopian communication and media history, contrasted traditional and new media, reflected on the media's influence on shaping narratives, and proposed ways that diplomats can be best use the media. Although communication technologies made it to Ethiopian within a few years of their innovation, the use of outlets did not lead to the development of a mass communication culture in the country, the CEO said. According to him, diplomats must be skilled in communicators, content creators, agenda setters, and able to use the convergence of various skills in various social media platforms in order to function in the new media and citizen journalism era. Creating succinct, accurate, and captivating social media content with timely, targeted story framing, in Fissa's opinion, is essential for success in contemporary diplomatic activities. In his conclusion, he said, a good media outlet can be a good diplomat. Moving on, UNHCR representative to Ethiopia said the peace agreement signed helped to reach out humanitarian access in war-ravaged area.
As early as possible, greater access to these areas. For UNHCR, we already have been able to go to Maisabri with the Government Refugees and Returnees Service, our main partner here. We've been able to already start relocating refugees who were caught between factions, across the conflict lines. And we have close to 3,000 refugees, Eritrean refugees, who have now been relocated voluntarily to Alamot site in Dabat. So we see this demonstration of leadership as essential, and we indeed would like to have as much access as possible to our brothers and sisters, irrespective of where they are on the territory.
And approached by Ethiopian news agency, representative of UNHCR to Ethiopia, Mohamed Dian Badle, underscored that UNHCR is ready to rehabilitate victims of the war. Let's take a look.
Let's have the peace dividend works. Let's support the government, the authorities, NGOs, the UN, as they are moving into supporting population, civilians, refugees, persons in need of protection, internally displaced people, not only to resume normal life without fear, but also to be able to really start reconstruction. Education needs are there, health needs are there, shelter needs are there, water and sanitation needs are there. These are all needs that need our support, our attention. And our attention, as I was saying earlier, is about within Tigray, in all part of Tigray, it is within Afar, in all part of Afar, it is Amhara, in all part of Amhara, looking at where we have the biggest need, for example, at the borders between Amhara, Afar, and Tigray. So this is our work as the United Nations, and as UNHCR, this is a priority.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Addis News Hour. Now step into another news story. South Sudanese ambassador to Ethiopia, James Peter Morgan, said peace in Ethiopia is crucial to move forward and realize regional integration. The peace talk, mediated by former Nigerian president, tells Africans can solve their problem by their own. Goshuma Leso has compiled the following story from Ethiopian News Agency. Let's take a look.
The Ethiopian government and the TPLF have agreed to bring normalcy based on respect and upholding of the country's constitution, territorial integrity and sovereignty. The agreement was signed in Pretoria, South Africa, under the auspices of the African Union, with principles of African solutions to African problems. Talking to Ethiopian news agency, South Sudanese ambassador James Morgan noted that South Sudan is pleased to welcome the recent peace deal reached between the government of Ethiopia and TPLF. The ambassador said peace in Ethiopia is crucial to move forward and realize regional integration.
When Ethiopia is not peaceful, all the region is affected. We don't feel comfortable about it. Because as I told you several times, that Ethiopia is a very bigger role to play in this region. The role of Ethiopia in this region is more important than the internal crisis that took place for the last 2 years. Because the region could not move forward in its regional integration process, which is the role that was supposed to be spearheaded by Ethiopia.
He explained that all of the neighboring countries of Ethiopia and African continents as a whole, there is nobody who was not really calling for peace because Ethiopia is a model. The ambassador commended and welcomed some of Ethiopia's friends beyond Africa who helped the peace talks to bear fruit.
We wanted peace in Ethiopia so that we move forward with the issue of the regional integration. The continent was also so concerned with the crisis in Ethiopia because we have Agenda 2063 ahead of us, and this agenda cannot be achieved unless this continent itself is peaceful. And that is why the African Union, the region, our region here is IGAD, or the Horn of Africa, and the continent as a whole, and the international community in general, for that matter, everybody was really concerned.
James expressed hope that a lot of support would come from friendly countries and the international community to support the people and government of Ethiopia in restoring basic services to people who are affected by the conflict.
The destructive war in the northern part of Ethiopia comes to an end with an agreement signed in Pretoria, South Africa. Amidst of this adverse situation, Ethiopia's economic development endeavors are proved resilient, of which is the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which is nearing completion. For more of God-related issues and other current matters of the country, watch us on Addis News Hour of ETV Language Channel.
The 2022 Ethiopian Great Run will take place this November. ETV English is provide live reporting, exclusive interview, sport assortments, and other related activities in the competition. We are also ready to make a report to show the significance of Ethiopian Great Run in cementing or boosting the sport diplomacy of Ethiopia.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now step into another news. An exhibition depicting the 73-year-old diplomatic relations between Ethiopia and Mexico was opened on Thursday at Dashen Bank's headquarters in Addis Ababa. Opening ceremony of the exhibition was attended by officials of the bank and the government and various ambassadors. Various photographs showing the historic relation between the two countries were unveiled for visitors. Likewise, the photo exhibition is scheduled to be till December 23, 2022. Addressing the occasion, Mexico's ambassador to Ethiopia, Victor Trevon, said the visit of Haile Selassie to Mexico, sometimes seen as the most iconic episode in Mexico-Ethiopian relation. Hosting the photo exhibition, Asfaw Alemu, CEO of Dashen Bank, expressed delight for organizing the historic photo exhibition to be remaining open to the public next 1 month and to be part of the program. Meanwhile, celebrating the 73rd old diplomatic relation of Mexico and Ethiopia as Dashen Bank headquarters in Addis Ababa, Mexico's ambassador to Ethiopia, Victor Trevon, told ETV Language that Mexico appreciates the mediation of the AU and has full support to the implementation of the peace agreement signed between TPLF and the Ethiopian federal government. Shagawi Matao has compiled the following story.
The Ethio-Mexican relation dates back to 1936, when Mexico strongly condemned the Italian invasion of Ethiopia and supported its independence and status as a member of the League of Nations. Ethiopia and Mexico began official diplomatic relations in 1949. Talking to ETV, Mexican ambassador to Ethiopia, Victor Trevino, stated that Mexico appreciated the mediation of the African Union and has full support to the implementation of the peace agreement signed between TPLF and the Ethiopian federal government.
Full support as a country that is part of the United Nations, and full support because we have these historical ties, and we support, of course, and we appreciate the mediation of the African Union. We believe in the African problems, African solutions, and we just support the possibility to increase our relations, particularly the trade, commerce, and tourism.
The ambassador also expressed commitment to further strengthen trade relations between the two countries.
Well, the most important thing that is we continued with the Ethiopian cargo flight, and we are working in the context to, in the near future, we have passengers flights on both sides. But now we, as the representative of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, we are growing our trade relations.
The ambassador finally indicated that the photo exhibition opened for visitors at Dashen Bank headquarters displays the visit made by the Emperor Haile Selassie to Mexico in 1954 following the support of Mexico to Ethiopia against Italian invasion. He also tipped that Mexico supports Ethiopia's peace and work on further developing the economy of Ethiopia.
And as you can see in this exhibition, we have these relations since the 1930s. At that time, to support Ethiopia against the intervention and invasion. And now, in this time, we are supporting Ethiopia to be a peaceful country. And to, as the Prime Minister said this week, we need peace to develop the economy of this country, to develop the tourism. And we are ready to work with Ethiopia in that endeavor too.
Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Addis News Hour. Now, a time to look at a sports role in strengthening diplomacy. The Great Ethiopian Run International 10-kilometer race has become the biggest road race in Africa. It is a flagship event held every year since 2001. Responding to ETV English Language, President Sahle-Work Zewde remarked the realization of the Great Ethiopian Run is exemplary to show a small idea, a spark of thought from a visionary person can grow and make history. Daniel Kasson reports the following story.
The Great Ethiopian Run International 10-kilometer race, which has been happening since 2001 in Addis Ababa, remains to be an unforgettable experience for participants. It's celebrated as one of the liveliest and most colorful races in the world, as it is Ethiopia's biggest street party, with tens of thousands of Ethiopians running, walking and dancing their way along the road, led by Ethiopia's celebrated international runners. Responding to ETV, President Saleh Zode remarked the realization of the Great Ethiopian Run is exemplary to how a small idea, a spark of thought from a visionary person can grow and make history.
The Great Ethiopian Run is really a big event. It shows how a spark of idea from a given person can grow, expand to the highest level. Athlete Haile Gebrselassie takes the lion's share of the credit and recognition. Why am I insisting on him? Because I want to give him the bigger respect and acknowledgement as the Great Run is his initiative. So we need to pay attention to small beginnings because we don't know where a small beginning goes on and reaches at. The idea of Great Run has reached at this stage.
The race attracts participants of all abilities from all over the world. Others come as part of school and charity groups, supporting and building relationships with local projects. Something special in this year's event is it happens with the International Children's Day celebration, and the President hails it as a good opportunity to uphold the rights of the coming generation.
The International Children's Day celebration coincides with the Ethiopian Great Run event, and it would be instrumental to advocate the theme, education for all. We know a lot more needs to be done for children. The Great Run event helps to do so for the rights and privileges of children. I hope that will happen very well to address issues of children. We need to work for children to get access to education.
The President also indicated the Great Run is an ideal moment to advocate more about Ethiopia and to sell its image to the outside world. It indicated many international visitors come to run in the race as part of a longer trip to Ethiopia, staying on to visit some of Ethiopia's historical sites and national parks.
And finally, the former founder of Ethiopian Great Run noted that Ethiopian Great Run is anchoring Ethiopia's sport diplomacy by promoting the nation's tourism potential to the international community. Talking to ETV English, the former founder of Ethiopian Great Run, Richard Nerukar, said the Ethiopian Great Run is beyond a sport event to the nation. Habtam Washagre has sat down with him and compiled the following story.
The Ethiopian Great Run is one of the best and biggest road races in the world since 2001. Talking to ETV English, the former founder of Ethiopian Great Run, Richard Nerukar, said Ethiopia's Great Run is promoting the vast Ethiopian culture by using sport diplomacy to the rest of the world.
Sport diplomacy, as you're calling it, or sport tourism, or promoting Ethiopia, that was a central aim. It was a central aim of the race before the first race. In the first year, we had international television, we had international media here. If you remember, Haile won the first race, and that was brilliant, you know, to have the world's greatest athlete take part in a race in his home city and win the race. But what was important was that race was covered by Runner's World. It was L'Equipe, one of Europe's top sports newspapers, was covering it. And that was really important for us.
According to Richard, the first Ethiopian Great Run has been inviting over 10,000 runners and has gone through a number of challenges over the past 2 decades. He remarked the Great Ethiopian Run is unique from other open straight races by participating professional athletes.
I'll think of 5 things. One, we had to attract participants. You know, it wasn't going to be a race for 1,000 people, it was going to be a race for 10,000 people. 2, we had to attract sponsors. You can't organise a race like this unless you have financial resources. 3, we had to get the support from stakeholders. I've talked about that. We had to develop capacity to organise the race. I'm thinking of human manpower, right? And I've talked about how our event team have developed. And the 5th thing is we had to find resources, infrastructure, and all other things you could think about, branding, but in organising the event.
Over 40,000 participants in the political capital of Africa, Addis Ababa, will be partaken in the 22nd Great Ethiopian Run. Richard pointed further efforts are needed to scale up the Great Ethiopian Run to register further achievements in the near future.
We have achieved a lot. Could we achieve more? I would say yes. Yes, we could achieve more. We want to achieve more. We try and improve our organisation every year. If you'll just allow me, I mean, we talk a lot about stakeholders. And the reason that we do that is that if you just think of our office staff, we have an office staff of 12 people. We have an event team which goes much wider than that. But what has made this event a success are the people and the organisations that contribute to its success.
About 150 strong, this elite ladies field.
Ethiopia, a country located in the eastern horn part of Africa, has been known by its different culture, history, and tradition.
Animal fossils were discovered from here, and then this is south of Addis Ababa.
Just read a book by Peter Ward about life on Earth, including speaking of some of the excavations have been done in this country and in Afar.
There are lots of animal fossil which was discovered from the different, what you call it, parts of Ethiopia.
I find it incredible, you know, being able to see your history, you know, your culture. And it's not only a place for Ethiopian history, it's a place for human history, you know.
And I think for the foreigners must be busy to learn about the Ethiopian culture and Ethiopian peoples to behave here based on the history. So this will be wonderful.
When I first heard of Lucy, I questioned, I said, how is it possible that she's an African woman and they call her Lucy? My name is Bernetia. My mother is an African woman. She would not have given me a Euro name.
The best country, which is man-made as well as natural one.
And now a recap of the top stories once again. President Sahle-Work Zewde says the Great Ethiopian Run shows how a spark of a thought can make history. And Mohammed Durrell says Ethiopians must play their role for national dialogue effectiveness. You've been watching